Well, the championship is drawing to a close in this incredible title race. One that began in Asia nearly 5 months ago at the Malaysian Grand Prix now takes us back to the continent for the penultimate round of the 2020 World Championship. Just 11 points separates the top two in that championship after a disappointing retirement from Jerne Simoncic last round. But now we head to a location which remarkably neither of our title protagonists have been victorious at. In the city of Suzuka in the south of Japan, 100 kilometers away from Osaka on the other side of the Kansai region, holds the 5.8 kilometer marvelous racetrack we see today. One that has provided us with many thrills and spills. Round 9 then of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, brought to you by SimLab, IMB Racewear and 3D Wrap. It is the Japanese Grand Prix, and taking you through that myself, Lewis McGlade, alongside me Cameron Rodger. Hello.
Yes, hello everyone. Yeah, 2 races to go this year, and it's got so close, not only in the Drivers' Championship, but also in the Constructors, and I think these 2 races are going to be absolutely fantastic, and it's going to be a really great end to the year.
Yeah, it's a circuit which needs almost no introduction, one that I'm sure a lot of us have seen, whether it's open wheelers or whether it's endurance races across the sim racing platform. It is one that provides quite a lot of entertainment. As we saw last year, the 53-lap race saw it come down to the wire. In fact, the final corner, when Martin Gosby and Petr Berliak went through that side-by-side, Jerne Simoncic nearly got involved himself. Martin Gosby coming out on top of that, and Berliak, despite leading most of the race, only came out in second place, Cam.
And that is how tight it can be. You get that massive straight all the way down out of Spoon Corner down to 130R. And even though there's no DRS there, as there's only DRS on the start-finish zone, it is such a good overtaking place into that final chicane. And I really think that is going to be one of the main overtaking places for these guys. But it's still a 5.8 kilometer track, so plenty of overtaking options. And as you can see there, this is the car they've got. 976 horsepower in qualifying, with that qualifying boost, which they will have access to in the race, but if you use it too much, you will blow your engine.
Yeah, we've seen a few going pop, and that last year when they did cross the line, Martin Gosby actually ran out of fuel on the line, and there you can see some prizes from our sponsors, Cam, really helping us out here in the FSR World Championship.
Yes, so thanks to the guys on the screen. As you see, 3D Wrap supplying 2 of their rims. We've got the Formula rim and the Vintage rim. One will go to the Teams Champion, one will go to the Drivers' Champion. Then SimLab, the P1X cockpit with the seat as well for the Drivers' Champion. And then IMB Racewear are giving a bundle of their customizable gloves, hat, boot and shirt to the winner of each of the divisions. So the Academy, Pro and World Champion in all 3 divisions, along with €3,000 of cash to be divided by the amount of points that they get in the World Championship.
You can see their last race, first ever victory for Dennis Jordan and for Evolution Motorsports in the FSR World Championship. A great drive from him, just ahead of Petr Berliak and Mohamed Patel on his return to the World Championship, taking 2 podiums on his return, has Mo, who is right up at the top of things. And as we come into Suzuka, we'll see if he can take a victory. You can see the championship there. So tight at the top, just 11 points between Jerne Simoncic, our defending world champion, and Petr Berliak, who is trying to go for a little bit of a record, the longest distance between 2 championships. He would join it, of course, but it would be 5 years. 2015, Petr Berliak won that championship, so the 5-year gap would be the same as, I believe it was 2004 to 2009 was the one between Roy Colbert, Dennis Jordan right up there in the championship, and Alex Siebel. I must say, he has been on quite a turn of form, and for Evolution in the Teams Championship, it has done wonders for them over that side of things. Just 3 points ahead, though, of Burst Simplexity Esports. How, Cam, would you fight that, considering you've got 2 teams that are very, very close to you, 2 teams that are very, very strong when it comes to this Teams Championship, but they maybe don't have the best lineup car to car?
Yeah, that's one thing about Burst this year, is they don't, obviously this is relatively speaking, they don't have their best lineup in one team, because you would argue maybe Michi and Jerne are the better pairing, but they're in different cars. And then Robin struggled quite a lot this year, and he's paired with Yerne, which is why they're down there in third, because Robin hasn't got too many points this year. So it's just interesting how that's worked out, whereas Evolution, they've just been right up there all along, and I think they've got a very good chance of winning this Constructors' Championship, but never count out Hoyer or Mocek, because they've been there in sort of the top 5, top 6 every single race. But now we jump into the mid part of the qualifying session, and look who is already on provisional pole. Yerne Simičić by over 2/10 of a second, but look how close they are just behind him.
Yeah, it is going to be a very close gap. Of course, you've got a decent distance between Yerne Simičić and Dennis Jordan there. It's nearly a quarter of a second, but only 2,000 separate Jordan and Michi Hoyer, of course, victorious the last time we were in Asia, and has put in some very, very decent efforts across the season, has Michi Hoyer really come to form at the front end of the field. But as things get to the end, we're seeing a lot of competitive drivers come towards the front. I would argue, as much as you brought up there with Robin Panzer, who realistically hasn't scored as many points as we would have expected him to, respectfully. He's only scored points on one occasion this season, with a 7th place back at the French Grand Prix earlier in the year. Is this the time that he's going to step it up? Is this the time that he's going to go, do you know what? We need this team championship. We're only 20 points off of it. We can very much do this here.
Yeah, they certainly need to get double podiums, really, to challenge that, because that is quite a lot to get, considering if you look right at the top, who else is there? None other than Siebel, Hoyer, Jordan as well. But look at Tom Sadley up there in 4th place. Can't count out Ghostby, but in terms of championship, it is really Evolution and the 2 burst cars, and maybe Edge if Paresis can get involved as well. But we're just seeing Dennis Jordan here. Interestingly, it's 2/10 of a second to Yerne Simičić. We saw there was a little bit of a gap last race as well, but it was Jordan who was matching Simičić, but he's just a little bit behind as we now see him come through this sector 1 of the lap. Such a fast section. It'll be 6th gear all the way through these corners, barely lifting off the throttle. And you just keep on going as fast as you can. They actually drops down to 5th. They just get a tiny bit more rotation before you come up the Dunlop curve absolutely flat out. And then you can just see them send it over the curbs into Degner 1. Again, almost flat out, right over the curbs, and then get it into the banking of Degner 2. It's such a fast opening of that lap.
Yeah, it's going to be very tricky to keep up with everyone, obviously with dirty air and such. Then you need to get just about close enough to keep within distance around here. We come out of the hairpin and towards Spoon Curve, and then the real run towards a great overtaking opportunity through 130R and down to the Casio Triangle, taking the curb a little bit on the inside there, but not up to the grass. They're doing quite a well-judged drive at the moment from Dennis Jordan. Michi Hoyer goes onto the front row, just getting ahead of Dennis Jordan, but still just over a 10th off of his sister teammate Yerne Simičić. Flat through 130R, of course, and then heavy on the brakes, where we've seen a few incidents across the day in Academy and Pro, through the Casio Triangle. And as we saw last year, going side by side with Berliak and Gosby, Dennis Jordan comes down the hill, crosses the line, and doesn't go any higher than 3rd, doesn't improve on his time. Robin Panzer, though, does go to 3rd, and that's important for the team's championship. Here is Peter Berliak, who's trying to go for the drivers, goes up to 4th, but only 4th.
That is interesting how it's working out, and it's good to see that Panzer's up there as well. But look at Mocek down in 7th, Siebel down in 9th, Patel down in 8th. It's so close. And then you've got the 2 Singularity cars in 10th and 11th as well, which just shows you how close it is. 4/10 covering the top 11, and I think there's 7 teams in there as well.
Yeah, there's a lot going on here at Zuka. It's a real driver circuit. Definitely one that, at least in qualifying terms, is great fun. In the race, can be a little bit frustrating due to a lack of real overtaking opportunities. Here comes Patel, who, like I said, has rejoined the championship fairly recently, joined back at Silverstone, took a runner-up position there, and not by much, 3.5 seconds off, I believe he was, when he came to the checker flag to being victorious that day, retired at Germany, and then finished on the podium last time out. So, has rejoined the championship and is looking pretty strong. Janis Brakshock, one who ended the season last year in good form, has been Mr. Consistency this season, has been in the points in every single race, and I don't think there is another driver that can actually say that on the FSR World Championship this season, as he's scored points in all 8 of the races thus far, but no higher than 5th in any of those. Starts his lap on the run down the hill. It doesn't look like it's a downhill. I never used to know how big a downhill it was, but if you look in the pit lane with all the steps as they come down in like between the garages and stuff, it is a monstrous downhill. It is very, very steep.
And especially for these guys in WC for the race start, they don't have any sort of obligation to use the launch control that is in the car. So some of them might actually be having to hold the brakes while they're holding the clutch at the same time on the start, which is going to be very interesting. It always gets a little bit interesting. We've seen this plenty of times where people actually roll out of their box, and obviously you can then risk a false start. But hopefully no one does that. But look at Bradshaw there, getting all slidey out of the hairpin, because it's such an important corner, because basically from this part of the track it's 3 straights back to the start finish line, with these 2 fast corners in Spoon and then just the chicane. So pretty much half of this half of this track is just absolutely flat out in a straight line.
Yeah, Bradshaw is a quality driver. Has had a pole position at this level prior to this season, was at the Italian Grand Prix, but hasn't really showed his qualifying prowess quite as much this season for the Go Speed Racing team. Flings it through the chicane and then down the hill. We'll see if Bradshaw can move up higher than 12th place. He'd be pretty disappointed with 12th, and as he crosses the line, he goes to 6th. That's a lot better as he splits the 2 Evolution cars. Here's Michi Hoyer. Fantastic job in qualifying thus far, up in 2nd position, Cam.
Absolutely amazing. He's had a slightly up and down middle part of the season, but remember, he started so strong. After the second race, he was joint with Jone Simoncic leading the championship, having won in Malaysia and then got 2nd place in San Marino. So he's had such a good start to the season. He struggled a little bit. Silverstone was one where he did really well, and then he obviously had a decent race in the Nürburgring. But let's see what he can do in this final sector. Oh, too much. That is too much. Lock the rears, and that will be him not improving. But someone who could improve is Peter Berlak. Final lap for him as the session has finished. What is he going to do out of the final corner? 5th currently. Where can he put himself? He goes to... stays in 5th.
And it is, look at that at the top of the field. How hard is that going to be for Peter Berlak? We've got a burst 1, 2, 3, and 4 as David Marocek threw himself up into 3rd position. Patel coming through 130R. He's down in 10th place. It's not a good second sector. It's an okay first sector, but I don't think he's going to see much improvement for the HME Engineering red car down the hill. The number 96. I don't think this is going to be anything to... no, it certainly isn't. 24 flat and stays in 10th. I think that is qualifying done, and I think Peter Berlak might be a little bit frustrated down in 5th place, but it is common form. What we're getting quite used to here in the FSR World Championship. Jone Simoncic, who is on the pole, and if they finish in this current position, we did the maths prior to this, obviously with it being 11 points between them, if they finish 1st and Berlak in 5th, and the championship will be decided today. We'll hope that won't happen, because we want a nice spicy finale when we head to it in 2 weeks' time, Cam.
But just remember, Berlak was 5th in the first stint in Zandvoort 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he came out in 2nd place. So he knows what to do. He's very good on strategy, but just look how close that is. Not even 4/10 for the top 12, 3/10 for the top 10. It's very, very close indeed, and just a blink of an eye difference, and that grid could be completely different. But either way, as you say, it's a burst 1, 2, 3, 4. It's going to be very difficult for him, but he's going to... Well, we've already spoken to him in previous races. He's going to do his absolute best to try and get that. But while the drivers just go for a bit of a warm-up, we'll take you around the track with the one and only Michi Hoyer.
Welcome everyone, this is Formula Sim Racing. My name is Michi Hoyer, and I welcome you to the track presentation of round 9, the Matsusaka Grand Prix, the penultimate race in the Formula Sim Racing 2020 series. We are out of the pit road and coming into sector 1. The track itself very, very technical and challenging for the drivers today. We have a late apex turn 2 here, which is the opening for a series of S's. I turn left and right through 3 and 4 with a little bit of an interesting bump there between 3 and 4. Through 5 already into 6. Line yourself up for a good exit so you have a good entry for 7. Compression when going up the hill, decompression when coming over the crest when the rear end gets loose. Turn 8 and 9, Deckner 1 and 2. Technical again, since Deckner 2 has a little bit of a banking towards the inside. so has the hairpin turn 10, but at the same time, on the exit, it goes a little bit up the hill, as we have a little sprint towards Spoon Corner. And yeah, Formula 1 cars, lots of downforce. The track requires a lot of downforce, high wings, so easy sweep here through a double left-hand corner. The front right is screaming to mercy. Due to the fact there's so much downforce and so much grip, drivers are flat out 100% on the throttle for quite some time, which requires quite a little bit of fuel saving during the race. But now we enter Casio Triangle, which is the final turn of the Matsusaka circuit, and then we're up for the track presentation. DRS wide open across the line. As I said, best overtaking spot into turn 1, but at the same time you need to lift quite early and save some fuel before you head into the technical part of the circuit. Turn 3, stay on the inside because there's a stupid bump that can fuck up turn 4. Turn 5, and you need to be very much in balance with your car. Stay towards the inside here of the curb. Turn 7 can be flat out if the car balance is pretty much alright. And the sector 1, quick through Deckner 1 into Deckner 2. Early on the throttle again, below the bridge. Remember, this track is an 8-figure kind of track. Then the hairpin traction is so important, because here you need to start getting yourself into position for a potential overtake at turn 1, because right now, ever so important, Spoon Corner, super quick first right-hander, just don't want to come too as far out of the track as I've been, because that second part of Spoon Corner is so damn important that you carry all the speed. 130R flat out, no issue whatsoever. Heavy braking zone into the Casio Triangle. First one, right one, and then traction is everything that is about coming out of Casio Triangle across the line. That is one flying lap here around the Matsusaka circuit. It will be an ever so interesting race, because overtaking will be difficult, fuel saving will be a factor, and then other people doing 1 stops, 2 stops, maybe 3 stops. There is plenty of options available for this race, and I'm pretty sure you guys will enjoy it. 1400, 1630 and 1900, the GMT, ACA Pro and the World Championship drivers will fight it out for the win.
The penultimate round of the championship, the Japanese Grand Prix, 53 laps ahead of us, and Jerne Simoncic, our defending series champion, is on the pole, and he is comfortably ahead of his main championship rival Peter Berliak, who's going to be lining up on the 3rd row. Cam, this one is going to be spicy.
Berliak's just got to do everything he can, to be honest, because as we mentioned, if they finish like this, Jerne will just take the championship. And even then, if Jerne gains points on Petter today, that's going to be a very difficult job in Brazil. So Petter's just got to throw everything at this race and just try. And even getting second might just be enough. But yeah, he's just got to do the absolute best he can. It's a little bit difficult for him because of the cars around him aren't really his, friends as such. So he's going to have to do a lot of work. But it's certainly possible. He did it at the Dutch Grand Prix last time, so we know he can definitely make up positions. It's just how much time is he going to lose being stuck behind other burst drivers? That is what we're here to find out. But either way, we could be crowning the FSR World Champion for 2020 here today.
Yeah, we could be, provided that Jerne Simoncic outscores Peter Berliak by 15 points. It's really 14 points to be doing it, but based on positions and stuff, if Jerne Simoncic wins the race and Peter Berliak is only 5th, as he currently is qualified, then that's the championship done. Although you'd have to say, you'd be pretty hard pressed to say that Peter Berliak's going to be finishing in 5th place, but well, I'm sure we're going to see some spice throughout the course of the Japanese Grand Prix. It does normally throw some stuff up, and I'm sure first, will be there to protect Jerne Simicic. Of course, they've got 3 drivers between the 2 main championship rivals, and then of course we've got the teams championship as well. They'll be looking at that, trying to get Michi Hoyer and David Marocek to finish comfortably ahead of Alex Siebel and Dennis Jordan going into the final round. So there's plenty to play for here in the World Championship camp.
Certainly is, and also just at the end of the day for these teams, the points literally mean the prizes, because the prize pool is divided by the amount of points that they get. So for each team, they just want to get as many points as they can. Literally every point is money in the bank for them. So that is what we're working with. But here on the screen is the qualifying results. Jerne Simicic, by over a tenth of a second, got pole position, but then within the next tenth, there's 5 drivers, which just shows you how big a tenth of a second can be in the World Championship. Even on a track that is it is quite tricky, but there aren't too many really big braking zones and sort of slow sections, which is really where you lose the corners, the speed I should say, which is why the lap times can get a bit spread out to other circuits. However, just look how close it is. I do think we're going to be in for an absolute treat of a race, because as I said, Petter Berlek's got no other option but to absolutely throw everything he's got to this race.
Yeah, it could be an absolute barnstorm of a race. You see Jerne Simicic and Michi Hoyer on the front row, David Marocek and Robin Panzar line up on the second, then Petter Berlek alongside good mate Alex Siebel, Janis Brakshock and Dennis Jordan. On the 4th row of the grid, Tom Satherley and Mohammed Patel, Jordi Veers and Craig Baxter are the 2 that line up as teammates on the 6th row, and they're also in a tight fight with ground effect for one of the lower places in the championship as well. Craig Baxter then leads Luca D'Amelio, who obviously was teammates with Jordi earlier in the season. That ended with a bit of feisty action. Luke Maguire, Phil Krauts, who came up just a couple of points short of the Pro Championship earlier today, taking race victory at the circuit. Jim Parisis, Reg, way down the order in 16th place. Thomas Vack, Danny van der Neet and Victor Ivanov lead the drivers to the grid. Noah Roivers and Jukka-Pekka Laulu are going to be starting from the pit lane. They weren't allowed to qualify and they'll have to start from the pit lane. Whether they can get points from that position, I'm sure the likes of Singularity won't hope so, considering that main battle. I think it's for about 9th place in the Teams Championship.
Yes, unfortunately, the 2 Grand Effect drivers of Araneda and Kapamachan both couldn't make it to this race, but I'm told that they will be there in Brazil. So Rovers and Lalu filling in there, but as you say, having to start from the pit lane. And unfortunately, the final 22nd car is Chris Shepherd, who also could not make it, but there's no reserve. So we've got 21 guys taking the start of this race, and what a crucial race it could be in the grand scheme of things. I should say you've got people like Jordi and Craig there in 11th and 12th. They're going to be trying to do everything they can to get into the points for their own battle. So there's a bunch of little battles going on. Everyone wants to take points away from each other, but the points only go to 10th place in the World Championship, so it is very difficult to get.
Yeah, and that top 10, they're forced to start on the tyre compound they've qualified on, so obviously the soft compound tyre goes the way of the top 10. Everyone else splitting between the mediums and the hards. Hards for basically everyone else, and then a couple of mediums a bit further down the order for Van der Neet and Ivanov. Here we go then. The penultimate round of the FSR World Championship. How is this going to play out? We do not know. Jerne Simicic is on that pole from the man who defeated him at the start of the season, Michi Hoyer, his sister teammate. We are about ready to go for 53 laps around this incredible circuit. It is going to be a real test for all of the drivers to see the 2 coming up to the end of the pit lane, ready to start from there. Jerne Simicic about ready to start from pole position, and it is a decent launch from him. It's pretty equal across everyone inside the top 5. It's Robin Panzar who's had the best one, who's trying to get down the inside of David Marocek for the podium position. Already he is going to get past his teammate, but that might have opened the door for Petter Berlek to get up into 4th, which could be crazy for the team. There's such a contact. Oh my goodness me, between David Marocek and Petter Berlek. Contact between the 2 of them as we head through the snake. Alex Siebel leads Dennis Jordan, his teammate. Janis Brakshock down in 8th position. And then Mohammed Patel and Tom Satherley round out the top 10. That contact very, very nearly was costly for our the attempt of a World Championship run from Petter Berlek. My goodness, that was tight, Cam.
And that is the always we see someone dive down the inside there. Mohamed Patel for 8th position, getting past Janos Barakshok. So he's already made up a couple of positions there. The two Ghost Speeds getting dropped down. But that is the advantage that Mocek has. He knows if he just pushes Petter out, Petter's got to back out. Petter cannot risk a DNF at this stage, whereas arguably Mocek could. So that is the advantage that the Burst boys have. So Petter had to back out of that one. 5th now. Let's see what he can do from there. Can he keep up with them, or what are they going to do? Also, decent start from Dennis Jordan. I believe he's made up a couple of positions. He's behind his teammates of Alex Siebel in 6th and 7th, which isn't too bad for them. But then just behind them is Mohamed Patel as well. So this is going to be a great race. It's set up for an absolutely fantastic race, and let's just see what happens as they come to the end of lap 1. It is Jerne Simicic leading the way from Michi Hoyer.
Yeah, we've got Jim Parisis, who's got by Phil Kraus, but Kraus is going to come back down the inside. No DRS just yet in the race. Was on the inside for turn 1 as Jim Parisis has run it wide and gone onto the curb. Oh, that's so easy to do. Going to drop him a couple of positions behind Thomas Vack. Now under pressure from Danny van der Neet, who's on the medium, the yellow wool tyres. Jim Parisis just managed to stay ahead though, but just lost those couple of places. Phil Kraus just put the pressure on at the right point and basically made Jim Parisis overcook the corner for Edge Esports. This is terrible. They've not had the run in the championship that they'd wanted as a team. Obviously, respectfully, Petr Berliak's done his work. Jim Parisis, we would have expected a little bit more from him. He's put in some good races, but they just haven't come to anything by the end of it. No one else has been able to get inside the top 10 from outside of it. Obviously, running those medium tyres. There's been no real incidents, and the medium tyre runner, or hard tyre runner, rather, of Craig Baxter is just dropping off the back of Tom Satherley at the moment. Which strategy is right? Obviously, we'll wait and find out. Tyre, you'll know best. Is it particularly high around here? You've just raced, isn't it?
It isn't too bad, actually. However, this track loves a nice new set of tyres because you could just push so much, especially in Sector 1 and Sector 2. And looking at the pace of these guys at the front, you know how we normally see Jerne backing up everyone into a bit of a train, trying to sort of save tyres? I think he's pushing it. I wonder if they may be even going for something crazy like a 3-stop strategy, or something, quite crazy like that. Or maybe trying to use the mediums instead of the hards, because they are really pushing. Look at the gaps they're making at the front. The whole top 10 is really spreading out. Normally we see them stay so close together, because the pole position man generally backs everyone up just to save tyres a little bit, but it doesn't look like that's what they're doing here today.
No, certainly doesn't. The thing is, I think they're more concerned about the likes of Berliak, who's in 5th place at the moment. As much as it's 5th, 5th's fine. If he starts backing them up though, if he starts playing that game, maybe that opens the door for Berliak to move up some positions. Whereas if they apply pressure, if they apply the pace early on, that might just force Edge Esports' hand. Of course, it is important to note with Berliak, he did most of the leading here last season. I think it was about around, it might be like 40, 45 or something of the laps run he was in the lead of. Had an incredible run last year, but didn't come out victorious. That's because he was under attack from the ACR driver of Martin Gosby. That's what really cost him towards the end of the race. Berliak's just holding position at the moment at the bottom end of the top 5, and Alex Siebel's not quite close enough to apply any pressure to Berliak.
I wonder how this is going to work out, because look at this picture down the straight. They're really starting, especially Hoyer and Simicic, really starting to get away now. And you might be correct, this could be the strategy from Burst, because one reason why the undercut works in a situation such as Zandvoort was how slow the pace was in that first stint. Here they've stretched it out. Berliak's already 3 seconds off the lead, so there's no way he's going to be getting anywhere near Simicic or Hoyer with an undercut towards the end of the stint. But I also think it's because the tyre weight isn't actually too bad here. You could easily do 13 laps on the softs, and then you've got 40 laps, which is 20 and 20 on 2 sets of hards. So that's probably like a default strategy for a lot of these guys. So if you want to try and make something work, then that is obviously up to you. But I think that's possibly why they're pushing, because I think in terms of tyre wear, they're not going to have to do too much saving here today. But I do wonder, because Michi Hoyer actually said it in his track guide that we saw in the warm-up session about maybe a 3-stop. So that is why I'm having in the back of my mind, maybe we'll see something crazy. I guess it depends how the field spreads out and what the pace is like.
Maybe. Obviously, we'll have to wait and see. The joy between the two main championship runners, between Jerne Simicic and Petr Berliak, is they're both very good on strategy and they're both very good on tyres. We've seen time and time again, at least over the last couple of years, Jone Simičić holding off for a fair amount of time and then literally firing in great laps towards the end of his stint. He is an absolute master applying pressure at the right time. But Berliak's been in the game for a long time, obviously winning the World Championship back in 2015. He has seen a lot in his time and has started taking on various things across endurance racing, obviously being signed for quite a large team in the recent past as Petter Berliak, joining Williams Esports, and where he'll head off with that, who knows, but a very big signing for the young man, and power to him. He's looking to get one more notch in his belt, though, to really prove why he signed that contract. He's about a second clear, just under, from Alex Siebel, trying to break what will be the DRS zone. Michi Hoyer has already broken the DRS of Robin Panzar, who's just run wide. Saw in the at the front of shot there, just ran wide at the second Degner, did the Swede. A very big misjudgment on his part, realistically. It's just dropped him right into the clutches of his sister teammate.
And he's dropped off by almost 2 seconds now, about 1.7 at the last sector split. We'll see sector 2 as they come down the back straight. But yeah, he's definitely not got DRS, and this could put him under threat. And I do wonder, because it's been a while since Robin's been in a position like this. He did get a couple of podiums last year, but he hasn't really had anything this season. And I speak to him a decent amount in a private message, and he's been saying how he has struggled this year, not just in this car, but just in general. And maybe potentially doing too many different events is not his strongest suit, but he is here in third place. We just got to wonder if maybe pressure or just being a bit rusty at dealing with the things that come with being at the front of a World Championship race.
Yeah, he finished fourth in the championship last year in 2019, and in that time finished on the podium 4 times, including a runner-up position at the United States Grand Prix. And the reason why I bring that up was because he very nearly won that race, put on a great strategical performance. I think you were in the commentary booth with me there, Cam, and it was a fantastic effort from him. He's just not quite reached the heights this season that we would have expected him, in the sense of he's even struggled to get into the points. And I know what that's like. I've been on the same boat of just being like, oh my God, I'd like, you just, no results come your way. Like you put in all the work, you put in all the effort. Even sometimes times-wise, you're looking fine. But when it comes to race day, like you're missing maybe even just a 10th. But if you're missing a 10th in this, it will drop you 5-6 positions and then put you on the back foot in the race. And then sometimes it can be really hard to just be like, just shake it off and get on with it. It's not like the likes of Jone Simičić and Berliak and various other drivers that are much better at just going, I've qualified in this position, that's fine, I'm just going to shake that off and just go get a podium anyway.
And the thing for Panzar, which is sort of ironic, is he actually made the car this year. And obviously he's not able to quite get as much out of it as potentially he did last year, which is sort of interesting with how that works. But yeah, I mean, he's doing a good job here. It is quite interesting how he hasn't been able to get to those same heights, because he does put in a lot of practice. That's really where he gets most of his speed from. One thing he's struggled a lot with this year is actually his qualifying performance. But as you say, I was with you in the US Grand Prix last year. And yeah, it's really his strategy. He was just flying at the end of the race with the tyre strategy that he did on that day. He was overtaking people left, right and centre in that final stint. But I do wonder what he's going to do today. That gap with him and Hoyer has stabilised a bit. It's just sitting around 2 seconds for the last couple of laps.
Yeah, we just saw there the second. There's basically 2 trains of around 10 or 11 cars. The top 10, obviously the soft tyre runners, all running away with things in that top 10. And Craig Baxter in 11th position, leading his teammate Jordi Veers with Luke McGuire and Luca De Melio directly behind. Of course, it is important to note those that are looking at it thinking, hang on, that's a red and white car that Jordi Veers and Craig Baxter are running. I thought it was a singularity. They're running another special livery. Of course, they had the special livery last time out at Jordi's home race in the Netherlands, where it was quite orange. And now is running a white, red and black car. Quite a striking livery, although it might be considered a touch close, shall we say, to the Go Speed Engineering car of Luca De Melio. But fear not, those fans of the likes of Luca and Jordi. They're not teammates again after the feisty approach they had earlier in the season.
Yeah, unfortunately, that singularity ghost speed fortunately didn't necessarily end in the way that they wanted, but it's good. They are obviously still here going. I mean, Luca, he struggled quite a lot just in recent months, which means he hasn't been able to perform necessarily at the best that he can, and he's missed a couple of races. But good to see him back there in 14th place. And a good note is other people such as Phil Krause and Thomas Fack, and even Luke Maguire. Those guys obviously technically pro drivers. I know Thomas is a full-time WC driver, but he was allowed in with special permission. So it's good to see that they are fighting the way, despite maybe not being quite on the WC pace just at the moment. But especially for Phil and Luke, they might be in WC seats next season.
Well, Phil looking like he in a very comfortable spot, I believe, in the Pro Championship, sitting very, very high at the top. Not quite a champion yet, but basically it's all in his hands heading into the final round of the season in a couple of weeks' time. Here's Dennis Jordan, who's just dropped off the back of his teammate, Alex Siebel. Maybe a couple of mistakes at Spoon, and now under massive pressure from Patel, who I think might try... I thought he was going to go to the outside of the Casio triangle. He's down the inside now, hooks it up over the curb, makes a little bit of contact with the German of Dennis Jordan. And look at all of that. Alex Siebel has absolutely gone in all of that. He has disappeared 1.5 seconds, still DRS at the moment because of where the activation point is for Dennis Jordan, who's just going to hold the position, trying to go around the outside. He's going to hook on the curb though. Mohamed Patel gets hooked on the curb, same way that Jim Parisis did, drops a position to Janis Brakshock, and Tom Satherley just sits in behind, wasn't able to take advantage of that. Maybe an ill-thought move there from Mohamed Patel, and it's just cost them all a bit of time. Gave it a good effort though, but has cost himself a place as well through all of that.
Yeah, it's really difficult because especially in this first stint, we've seen it so many times this season. It's really difficult to make a position when you've got all the cars in a massive train, because obviously the car ahead of you is getting the slipstream and DRS off the car up front, and it's just sort of works its way along. But Patel had the opportunity there. He wanted to go for that so badly. I don't think he was actually really trying to stay on the outside of Dennis Jordan in turn number one. He just slightly misjudged it by a couple of centimetres, and that curb is really a really difficult one. And the Astro and curbs have had a tiny bit of a grip increase from previous seasons, but still wasn't quite enough there to save Patel, who's now dropped down into 9th place.
Yeah,
and Dennis now needs to try and get back in the DRS zone of his teammate.
Yeah, it's less so the lack of grip. It's more so that the curbs are quite high, and once you start going on it, basically the car just bottomed out. The same thing that happened with Jim Parisis, the same thing that happened to Mohamed Patel. Basically just bottomed out the car and went in a straight line because there was nothing. There was no grip on either side. It was just lifted off. Alex Siebel, first one to jump into the pit lane. 10 laps complete. Siebel jumps in, so there isn't going to be that chance for Dennis Jordan to catch up to his teammate as Siebel comes in and sticks on some hard tyres. I think that is going to be a 3-stop strategy for Alex Siebel. He's going to come out behind the ground effect cars and potentially... No, he's going to come out ahead of Jukka-Pekka Laulu. So he's going to come out in 19th place behind Noah Roivers. So maybe he can make something stick from there, but an interesting call strategy-wise. Whether that basically forces anyone into something else, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, and that wasn't even after 10 laps, because we're on lap 10 now, which means he only completed 9 laps on a set of soft tyres. So that is very interesting that he's done a strategy. It could be very much a 3-stop strategy. We'll have to see how it works with this traffic. And this is a good sighter for the guys who are still out, because they are obviously ahead of Siebel, which means they would come out right in this massive pack of cars, which I think is why Simoncic and Hoyer at the front are pushing so much. They must have done calculations of what this is going to be, and I think they know that they are going to come out inside that group, which is why they're pushing so much to try and get ahead and try and get that pit stop on who is at the moment Craig Baxter in 10th place. I think that's probably what they're trying to do.
Oh, Robin Panzar jumps into the pit lane. He's the first one from the top 5. Dennis Jordan doesn't follow his teammate. Neither does anyone else inside the top 10. So Robin Panzar, an early hitter when it comes to taking tyres as well. Wonder if that'll work out for him. We're not really too sure. Jordi, he's missed his box slightly. Oh my goodness me. Jordi's just got up into 9th place, by the way, going around the outside of his teammate Craig Baxter at T1. So he's up into 9th place. Panzar, though, having missed his box, comes out behind Alex Siebel. And quite away. How much time did he lose from missing his box?
Good few seconds, but that is very easily done. I did it a couple of times in my race as well. The concrete in that pit lane is very slippery, so I understand why he's done that. But yeah, he's probably lost best part of 5 seconds there, I would say, because he was obviously a bit ahead of Siebel as well.
Yeah, quite a bit ahead of Siebel realistically, but I think also Siebel's been putting in a pretty tidy couple of laps when it comes to his times thus far through the first sector. He set one that's pretty quick. It's about 5/10 quicker than Jene Simoncic leading your race, so it is a pretty feisty one. But now Alex Siebel has one quite large issue, and that's traffic, which is about to hit the back of the rest of the train that started on the mediums and the hards. Michi Hoyer throwing it over the curves of the Casio Triangle, and Jene Simoncic bites. He comes down pit lane. Michi Hoyer and David Mrocek, the two teammates, then are leading 1 and 2 at the moment for Burst Simplexity Esports. The Burst Rio Toro guys are Jene Simoncic and Robin Panzar. Janis Brakshock as well into the pit lane, onto the hard tyres for Jene Simoncic. Interesting call for Simoncic, and he is going to be deep in traffic now. Look at that. Whoa, my goodness. Oh, that was so close with Phil Krause. Wow.
That was Phil seeing his opportunity to get past an FSR World Champion. He's like, yeah, I'm doing that.
Oh, I thought that was going to be some fairly large death.
Yeah, that is where people such as Phil and just like Mrocek earlier, they know that Jene's got something to lose, so he is the upper hand in that battle there. But yeah, Jene, what's he going to do now? He's in traffic. I wonder if Hoyer, Mrocek and Burlak, even Dennis Jordan, stay out long enough, they might be able to do an overcut here.
Right.
Because look at all this traffic. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars directly ahead of him.
This is very, very interesting. Obviously, I'm sure Burlak's race engineer, or at least his team manager, Andreas Fortas, will be being like, all right, mate, they've just jumped in the pit lane. Do you want to keep that one out there for a little bit longer? We'll see. Michi Hoyer jumps into the pit lane. David Mrocek follows his teammate in, and Petr Burlak stays out, completes his 12th lap, and takes the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix. Dennis Jordan into the pit lane. Patel stays out, sadly, in the pit lane. This could be big for Burlak. This could be big. If this works out the way that he is hoping, he's just set his personal best final sector of the race. And Jene Simoncic deep in traffic. He's got by Phil Krause, but he's still got D'Amelio ahead. He's still got Maguire ahead, Baxter and Sveers as well.
Well, Panzar actually dropped behind Mrocek and Siebel, all the sorts. So Panzar dropped back so much because of that missing his pit box. But yeah, back to Simoncic. Yeah, all this traffic. He's overtaken Phil Krause now. He's still got 4 cars. If they are trying this 3-stop strategy, which they might do because they pit maybe 3, 4, maybe 5 laps earlier than we could have expected, if Petr can make a 2-stop work, which I assume is what he's trying, then that could work out really well for him. But we've got to see how this one works out, because Petr will then also come out into this traffic, but he would have lost less time because he's out in clear air at the moment. At least that is what we are assuming. I'm assuming he's going to stay out for another 2 or 3 laps. Yeah, I'm kind of not too sure. We'll check his sector times. Jene Simoncic and Burlak were pretty close in sector 1, but obviously Simoncic had a bit of DRS on the run down towards turn 1. He's on the back of D'Amelio at the moment. Burlak is coming straight into the pit lane. This, though, could gain him a little bit. Obviously, he'll jump Panzar, who was in the pit lane, or should do anyway. And when he missed his box, Patel then takes the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix, and the likes that haven't stopped yet, that haven't needed to, Sveers, Baxter, Maguire, D'Amelio. D'Amelio is about to be passed by Jene Simoncic quite easily to the inside, and that should be a fairly simple move for Jene Simoncic. And where's Burlak coming out? He is coming out just behind Mrocek. And Siebel comes together with Mrocek and opens the door again for Petr Burlak. My goodness, that was tight. Yeah, that was very tight. But has Siebel's jumped Burlak here, hasn't he?
Yes,
because of that. However, Panzar has dropped behind Burlak, so I think it's pretty much status quo in terms of the positions. But this is very interesting. But also, Simoncic is 10 places ahead of Petter at the moment because of all the cars that are mixed in there, which is a give or take 5 seconds in traffic as well. I still think Yonne's actually potentially done something good here. We'll have to see how this works out. Petter has a definite 2-stop time because, as I said, that was 13 laps. He can do 2 20-lap stints on hard tyres. Interesting what the burst guys are doing.
The thing with Jone Simicic is he's a master of changing strategy on the fly. We've seen it time and time again. Remember the Italian Grand Prix when Janis Brakshock was basically he changed very late his strategy to only doing a 1-stop, and it was about 10 laps to go, and you saw both who were on 1-stop strategies, Jone Simicic and Martin Gosby, as Mohammed Patel comes into the pit lane, and they basically went, I think they've changed him onto a 1-stop strategy, and you literally saw the timing screens just light up as they were like, okay, we're taking control now. So if there is some drivers that you kind of think will take control of things in the race, Jone Simicic is definitely one of them. But the gap that he's got to Petter Berliak, he's on a mission. He's got a lot of these runners that we're expecting to stay out for quite a while yet, or at least another 5 or 6 laps. If he can get by Luke Maguire, by Craig Baxter, and by Jordi's Viz, game over. That's done.
This is an interesting one. I think Simicic and Hoyer have actually gained quite a lot, because if you look where Hoyer is, the next car, who's technically 3rd place, is now Siebel, who's 6 places behind, which is about 4.5 seconds. So I think they've actually gained somehow with how the way that's all worked out with the traffic, which is quite interesting, as obviously Siebel, Mocek, Berlick, Panzer and Jordan are all having to try and get through the traffic themselves now. So that is an interesting one, how the traffic, swings in both directions sometimes. And maybe it's actually worked in Simicic's favour, as we didn't think it would, but maybe it has.
Look at how glorious that is on your timing sheet there. There is only one position where there is a gap larger than 1 second. And that's between Jukka-Pekka Laulu and Tom Satherley, and that's 1.2 seconds. Everyone else is separated by less than a second here at the Japanese Grand Prix. So everything's very, very tight, and that is why when you're leading or whatever, if you put in some decent times, think that Jone Simicic was still a couple of seconds rather clear as Danny van der Neet comes into the pit lane and Jone Simicic gets up into the podium positions after passing Luke Maguire. He was a few seconds clear, as was Michi Hoyer. Now, when you come into the pit lane and then when you leave, you're so much further ahead in the pack, and that is what costs you a huge amount of time. Berliak now is held behind David Mrocek and really unable to get by, and now he's got another burst car behind him, Robin Panzer.
And his issue is he's in that dreaded 5th place, which is not enough for him at the moment. He needs to do something to get past Mocek and Siebel. I think potentially 1st and 2nd is actually maybe gone for these guys, because Hoyer and Simicic played that traffic perfectly, as it turns out. So I think Berlick really is trying to get the 3rd place that Siebel is holding at the moment, but that means he's got to overtake 2 cars, which is always the most difficult, because Mocek will have slipstream and DRS from Siebel. So he's going to have to work really hard to try and get this, and possibly play a bit of a long game, and just accept that maybe 3rd is the best he's going to get as things stand.
Yeah, we look at Jone Simicic closing in on Singularity's Craig Baxter. And the thing with Jone Simicic, 2020 hasn't been quite as strong for him as 2019 was. He was so dominant in 2019 in the FSR World Championship and elsewhere in sim racing. 2020's not quite gone his way. Didn't win the Virtual Endurance Championship, for example, has been involved in a fair few incidents that maybe he would have thought better of. Lifted out there, though, to not go by Craig Baxter, so I'm thinking he's pretty happy in 2nd as Michi Hoyer is side by side. Oh, big slide there from Luke Maguire, and Michi Hoyer gets up into 4th position, now right on the back of the man he defeated back in Malaysia. The real question here, and I already know the answer to it, but I'm just playing, I'm trying to spice this up a little bit here, Cam. Would Michi Hoyer be allowed to pass Jone Simicic? We all know the answer.
I think because if this was Brazil, no. But I think because there's one more race after this, I think they might allow it. We'll see what they're thinking. Michi is so motivated to get more wins in the World Championship. Like if he has an opportunity, he's not gonna let that down, surely. But we'll have to see. I would say for this race, there's still a possibility. But as I said, in Brazil, it would definitely be a no. But we'll see how that works, as Mocek has got past Noah Rovers now as well. So Burlak needs to get past, otherwise he's going to lose time and then potentially get out of DRS, which would be not very good for him. I assume he's going to use boost down
130
here to try and get past. And Noah is a smart guy, and he is not going to fight that more than he has to. And is that Panzer trying to get through as well?
Opportunistic
a bit wide. Yeah, I think Panzer's trying to basically get past Burlak to try and obviously help his team out the best that he can, as well as improving his own personal position as Victor Ivanov comes into the pit lane. And what is going to happen with Burlak now, as they've got past the bulk of the traffic? Is he going to be able to stay with Mocek? And Mocek doesn't have DRS for the time being.
Yeah, and it's Simičić up into second position. Now behind the Singularity driver of Jordi Zveers, got by Craig Baxter, and sticks a car in between himself and Michi Hoyer. And I will play my part, and I'll say that I don't think Michi Hoyer is going to be allowed to pass Yannis Simičić. You'd have to be a very big team player, though. And to be fair, Michi Hoyer really, really is. He's a big team player, is Michi Hoyer, and he's really settled into the Burst Esports group very, very nicely. But you're talking about a win for a World Championship. Oh, no one would tell me no. Well, I mean, I'm never going to compete for a World Championship race unless me and you team up next year. We'll start a commentary team on circuit. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll start at the back every race, but who knows how that one.
And we'll finish at the back.
Yeah, who knows how that one will work out.
Pretty obvious how that one's going to go, mate.
Yeah, unfortunately, these guys are pretty quick. I mean, if you want to try out the car yourself, there is a link in the description that goes to the Steam Workshop where you can find the car and test out for yourself. And to get on the pace that these guys are doing is quite incredible. It's not just the pace, it's the consistency as well of these guys and how they manage the tyres throughout the stint to keep them alive and keep the pace going. And interesting, I'm just looking at Petter Burlak. He's dropping off a little bit potentially from David Mocek. So I do wonder if he actually has the paces just behind them. We've got Mohamed Patel fighting with Janos Bragshok. Actually, I think Bragshok got past him there, I believe, because he was the one with the DRS open. So Bragshok isn't doing too bad as he's now sitting behind Dennis Jordan.
Indeed. Not quite sure what's happening. I will say that Michi Hoyer has, we saw it on screen, got by Craig Baxter, and here is a replay. Let's have a look. Talk us through it, Cam. The one that saw it live.
So it was Bragshok who was ahead. So Patel must have closed his DRS a little bit early because he must have had to pull out of this one. But interestingly, even with DRS, he still tries to make it go. But yeah, not quite close enough for that move anyway. But yeah, he's certainly tried. Well, Patel has been one of the only people who's actually been making moves in this train. Most people just sort of sit behind, but he's been trying it, which is obviously what caused his little issue with the curb earlier.
Yeah, dropped him right down the order, now in 15th place, so really needs to make some progress up the order. But of course, the positions that we see by their names at the moment really mean very, very little when it comes to things in the FSR World Championship, because we know how much things get spiced up towards the end of a Grand Prix. Yannis Simičić really trying to apply the pressure and take the lead of the Japanese Grand Prix, which has been held at the moment by Jordi Zveers, but this one's going to be a little bit too hard. Jordi tried defending it and then realised there is no real point, and so reopens the door, and Yannis Simičić goes straight through, and Jordi Zveers down to second position. I'd be happier though if Jordi can finish in second later in the Grand Prix, because it'd be his personal best finish in the World Championship. Has scored points on a few occasions so far across the season, having his best finish, I believe, at the French Grand Prix, and I'm pretty sure it was a top 5 as well, was it?
Yeah, I believe it was 5th. Yeah, on the streets, which obviously makes it a little bit easier. But he was very quick on that day, and to be honest, he is very quick on most days. Unfortunately, his qualifying isn't the best, which means he has to do these alternate strategies, starting in sort of the P11, 12, 13 area. And I would say he's possibly going to come into the pits on this lap. This is the end of lap 20 we're coming to, and he'll probably go to another set of the hard compound tyres. But again, we'll see how that one works out. But look at Simičić now. Yeah, right. Really pulling away at the front. Michi Hoyer needs to do something. Otherwise, Yannis is going to be absolutely walking away with this one. Yannis just fired in the fastest first sector. A personal best in the middle. Going to try to take the fastest lap here from his teammate, from Michi Hoyer, who's got a 29.159 on the board as his fastest lap of the race. Jordi stays out. Craig Baxter also stays out. You can see their tyres have basically gone
And there we go. Fast lap of the race to Jene Simoncic, a 28.9. And Jordi Sveers is going to get passed by Michi Hoyer. So up into second position, he's going to go. But already, I say it's about 1.5 seconds between Jene Simoncic realistically. The moment Jim Paresis comes into the pit lane after what's been not a great run through the early parts of the Japanese Grand Prix.
Yeah, a bit of a contrast there in the Edge team, and just a bit further down, Patel has got now past Bradshaw after battling for a few laps. He actually did it into the final chicane, which is not always the easiest place to make the overtake, because then obviously you could potentially come back with DRS, but he held that into turn 1 as well. So what position is that going to be? That's going to be, I think, 8th position. Once it all works out, there's going to be for Mohammed Patel. Obviously, there's still a few people left to make pit stops. And unsurprisingly, Sveers and Baxter, well, all of them, Maguire, D'Amelio, Kraus and Vac, all of them are still staying out there. I do wonder if someone's going to try a crazy one-stop strategy.
One stop, yeah, no, I was about to suggest that.
They will need to go quite far towards like lap 30, so they are going to lose quite a lot of time in the next 10 laps if they are going to be trying that, but we will have to wait and see how that one works out.
Someone's crazy enough to do it, surely. We'll tell Jene Simoncic he's not allowed to pit from now, and he's got to do the rest of the race on these tyres and see what happens. We see Berliak, who's right down in the thick of things, as who was that? Was that Thomas Vac, Luca D'Amelio, and Luke Maguire all into the pit lane from this train, allowing a couple of positions for the likes of Siebel and Marocek to move up. Marocek overcooks T1 again a little bit, and Berliak's just not quite able to get through. He tried it on the first lap of the race, tried it after the pit stops, and nearly tried it there, did Berliak, but things are really not working out for Petter at the moment. He's down in 8th place. Jene Simoncic is streaking away with things at the front, and unfortunately the hopes of a title challenge for the number 97 are just starting to fade slightly. Of course, a long way to go in the Japanese Grand Prix, and indeed in the FSR World Championship. But in a couple of weeks' time we'll be crowning our champion, and who will it be?
Well, yeah, we got to hope that he goes down to the wire in Brazil. But even, as we said, even if Berliak gets ahead of, say, Marocek, maybe even Siebel, he's still going to have a big job to do in Brazil. But look what happened in Zandvoort. Simoncic had some sort of issue, didn't have from the race, and that could happen to any of these drivers at any time. Remember, we are obviously using simulation software, we're using controllers, hardware, software, all this sort of stuff. Internet can get involved, and that is just part of sim racing, whether people would like that or not. But fortunately, that doesn't happen too often. But yeah, Berliak really needs something to happen here, because he's stuck, as he's behind both Marocek and Siebel, who have both got DRS. Although Siebel now looking towards Phil Kraus, this could open up an opportunity.
Yeah, Jordi Sveers and Craig Baxter still running away in 3rd and 4th, still not pitting. They're a fair way ahead of Phil Kraus, who also is yet to stop, who's really helping out those two Singularity drivers. Maybe they are trying something a bit daring, a bit crazy. Well, we'll have to wait and see. Not sure how many laps Kraus did. He's obviously done his fair few laps, not only in this car across the week, but obviously today as well, having done this is his second race of today is Phil Kraus, and I'm sure he's very much in control of the tyres and learning from any mistakes that was made over the race he did slightly earlier in the day in the pro race. David Marocek, though, trying to apply as much pressure as he can to the Evolution Motorsports car of Alex Siebel. Things are looking very, very good, by the way, when it comes to the Teams Championship for those Burst Simplicity esports fans, as the likes of Alex Siebel, who's currently in 6th place, and Dennis Jordan, who's in 10th. No match on points when it comes to Michi Hoyer's current 2nd and David Marocek's 7th.
Yeah, that's going to go down to the wire itself for the Teams Championship, and that is really the main thing that the Evo boys are fighting for, because they know that the drivers is completely gone, and that is why they're going to be pushing so hard. But let's see, can Siebel, yeah, this is going to be fairly easy because there's no DRS for Phil Kraus. But also, don't discount people like Phil Kraus. He did get, was it 5th, I believe, or 6th place in the America US Grand Prix last year, because I think it was Bradshaw and Berliak had a bit of contact towards the end of the race, which gave him a couple of positions. So Phil's definitely capable of getting points. But obviously, being on this alternate strategy makes it a little bit more difficult. And I do wonder, with these guys staying out so much, if they go for a one-stop strategy and they keep the likes of Mocek, Burlak, Panzer behind them, all these guys, they could potentially be fighting for these positions at the end of the race if they can keep these hard tyres going for another 7-8 laps.
Indeed, yeah, it was 5th place, by the way, for Kraus. Very well done. Well done.
It was my team.
nice work.
It's driving for my team. I should be able to
that is true, but then I don't remember half the results that my team's scored across its racing career. Either way, Alex Siebel, who, like I said earlier in the broadcast, massive turn of form from Alex Siebel when it comes to the FSR World Championship. Having started out the season, don't want to say lucky, but yeah, he got into 7th place after a retirement from his teammate, courtesy of a connection issue, as Jim Paresis has retired from the race. We'll find out what happened to him. But yeah, so it wasn't so great of a start to the year. Didn't score points in the next race, but then from then has scored points in every race. Kraus in.
Yeah, Kraus is in, and this could be not this lap right now as Siebel gets past Craig Baxter, but this lap coming, Mocek is not going to have DRS. I would assume he's not going to catch up to Baxter that quickly. So this lap coming, the end of this lap could be an opportunity for Petter Burlak to get past David Mocek, and that could be very important for not only this race but the title chances as well. However, they do have Baxter not too far up the road, but if Mocek doesn't quite get DRS, this could be the lap for Petter Burlak. And as we saw in Zandvoort, you may only get 1 or 2 options in the whole race. What have you seen?
The thing is, you say that, but I think Mocek is very much aware of what you are saying, because look at how quickly he's close to Craig Baxter. He's there. He's in DRS range again.
Oh, wow. He was about 2 seconds behind him.
That was monstrous from Mocek, who was just like, look, I'm going to use these tyres up now. Might as well, spend a few percent of the tyre wear at this point. Make it a little bit hotter or whatever, but in the long run that'll work out in my favour, because I'm not then going to get passed by Petter Burlak. This could be a very late charge from Burlak, which will need to keep his title hopes alive. Mocek then, yes, he is very much in DRS range of Craig Baxter, and
bit of contact behind Patel, and Patel's gone over the chicane with
has.
Dennis Jordan. Dennis squeezed him a little bit. I think Patel's going to probably have to give that back. But who's gone in? Craig Baxter has gone in. So once again, we go and see, is this the lap that Petter Burlak can make that time up, or make that position up, I should say. But Patel's actually kept ahead of Dennis Jordan, interestingly. There was basically a tiny bit of contact in the braking zone, which is what caused Patel to go off. Let's have a look. He's going to go to the left-hand side. Is there a bit of a squeeze? Just about.
Oh, that was a squeeze, yeah.
It's hard to say just from seeing it once whether Patel should have given that place back, but either way, he's decided to stay ahead, so that is what we'll run with. So he's now into 8th place, and has everyone pit? No, Jordi is still out, so we are almost back to status quo with strategy, but Jordi is still out there. Going on to, what is this now, lap 26? He's still out there on the hard compound tyres.
Yeah, we'll see if he comes in. His teammate obviously came in on the previous lap, and normally teammates try and run fairly similar strategy. So Craig Baxter, who has come out on the soft compound tyre, by the way, down in 17th place, along with Phil Kraus as well, who's on the soft compound tyre. Maybe they're going to go... no, surely not soft. They might go soft medium, though.
We need to look at Petter Burlak. He's right on the back of Mocek. I saw him boosting down the back straight to get into that DRS. But Mocek actually had a really good run off that final corner. But look at Patel. Burlak even. He's coming in. Is he going to be able to go around the outside? We saw what happened to Patel earlier on the curb. No, he's going to have to back out of that one. Oh, that was potentially an opportunity, but it wasn't quite close enough. But he's got to be careful because Panzer's right behind him. However, Burlak, to be honest, I think Burlak isn't quite quick enough, because Mocek has the pace in the first and second sector, as we've seen in previous laps. So I think Burlak is going to struggle a little bit, but that's certainly one opportunity that he had.
Yeah, it's kind of faded there. He just didn't really have enough in it. And like you say, I don't think he's really got the pace in him at the moment. Has Petr Beliak, the 2015 world champion, as now Marocek sets his sights on Jordi Sveers, who's been passed by Alex Siebel and up into third place. He's gone 7 seconds off the lead. The top two have run away. It's 2 seconds separating Simoncic and Hoyer, and then a further nearly 6 seconds back to Alex Siebel. So a big run those top two have put in, and they've really taken advantage of this traffic, Cam.
Well, they've spent the last 15 laps now in traffic, so that is how 6 seconds can be lost very easily, just here and there. And Simoncic and Hoyer, surprisingly to us, managed to make that work, as now Marocek is all over the back of Jordi. Is Jordi going to come in? Yes, he does. So now although Marocek will have DRS, I assume, because the detection is just before the chicane. What can Beliak do? He's getting a bit closer, but not quite enough to make a move. However, they are 2 seconds behind Siebel, so Marocek really needs to get a move on here if he wants to avoid at least having a battle with Beliak.
Yeah, Marocek's not really had the most impressive season. It's not been disappointing. He's been on the podium a couple of times, has done some decent work there, and has really moved himself forward in that contingent. Of course, joined the World Championship last year for ACR Blue, when obviously fairly similar lineup: Jone Simoncic, Robin Panzar, David Marocek. He was direct teammates with Robin Panzar that year. Of course, Robin Panzar's moved up to the main squad with Jone Simoncic. Different team, mind, not ACR, but it's just similar lineups. Panzar's now partnered with Simoncic rather than with Marocek. It would be, a great drive at the moment from Rodger, and really, really helping out his teammates Michi Hoyer and Jone Simoncic, but maybe he's going to be a little bit hard pressed to keep Petr Beliak behind at the moment, because he's going to be a very determined driver.
And Beliak once again getting so close in this final sector we come into now. Look how close he is. Actually having a little look just to the right, just to be like, oh yeah, I'm coming for you. But look at Marocek off this final corner. Look at that exit that he got. He did that last time as well. What can Beliak do? He's going to have to full send it. All the boost, all the slipstream DRS. Can he get his nose to the inside? Oh, Marocek's not defending. That is interesting. Marocek does not defend that. He must have seen that coming and just thought, actually, you know what? I'm not going to get too involved. But that is very interesting indeed. Maybe he thinks he's got enough pace to get him back. We'll see. Either way, Beliak is now up into 4th place. And that is enough for him to keep the championship alive.
Yeah, just
for at least another race. He now has a bit of clean air, so if he does have some speed, then this is the time that he needs to use it to try and get away from the train of cars behind him.
I don't think he's going to be able to pull away. I think David Marocek knows that, and I think Marocek will just sit there and use whatever he needs to use to basically keep on Petr Beliak 6, and then maybe fire one down the inside into T1. How frustrating would that be for Petr Beliak, although Beliak is really giving it a good go. Like I said before, Jone Simoncic and Petr Beliak both haven't been victorious at this venue prior to this in their World Championship careers. Next round, though, I think they've both been victorious at Interlagos. I distinctly remember Petr Beliak's first ever win back in 2013 when he was driving for Twister. I think it might have been his first ever World Championship race back then. Either way, he jumped into it and took the win. Oh, big dive from Mohamed Patel, leaves it down the inside. My goodness me, that is commitment on Robin Panzar. A little banging of wheels between the two of them, and he's got that move done. Robin Panzar down to 7th place. That was a quality dive bomb from Mohamed Patel. He's left the door open, though, for Robin Panzar to try and swoop round the outside of the first corner. There's touch of contact, and Robin Panzar, that was always going to happen.
Yeah, you can't go around the outside of turn 1. We've seen that too many times this year, as he's now just got overtaken by Janos Brakshock as well. Dropped down into 9th place. Remember, Panzar was in 3rd at one stage in this race. But that is Mohamed Patel realising the situation with Marocek and Beliak starting to push. They're getting away a little bit. And now Patel is coming for Marocek to try and get involved as well. As we've said, he's already got a couple of podiums since he returned. Remember, he almost won the race in Silverstone had there not been the clash with Hoyer on that occasion. And in the Nürburgring, he would have got a podium had he not had a random disconnection as well. So we know he is capable of getting podiums, and I'm sure he's going to catch up to the back of Marocek. But this is certainly working out. And in fact, Burlak is catching up to Siebel, I tell you. Burlak
He
could be on
certainly
for
is.
this podium position. He is starting to use the pace now that we were questioning earlier. And as we get towards the second round of pit stops, because I'm definitely sure these guys are going to be making a second stop, maybe something could happen with that could get him into that third place. But either way, he is catching up on raw pace at the moment.
I think there'll be a 2-stop from them, not a 3. The 3 is, a little bit spicy, but I don't think anyone's going to be doing a 3-stop today. Definitely expecting another pit stop from the likes of Siebel, the likes of Hoyer, Simoncic, Berliak, Mocek. We're expecting 2 stops from basically everyone. And obviously now that the likes of Kraus, Baxter and Zveers have come through the pit lane and gone onto the soft compound tyres. Speaking of Baxter, whoa! Contact with D'Amelio. Big contact at T1. D'Amelio's off into the barrier. Contact between the two. They look like teammates. They're not. Definitely not after that. I literally just clicked on that. D'Amelio's out of the race. And Craig Baxter. Let's take a look at the replay cam.
Yeah, that was just one of those situations when you touch front to rear on these cars, the wheels lock, and that is just what they did. Really hard to see from that angle if either Craig went too tight or Luca came too wide, but that might just end up being a racing incident, because that's what happens when you go side by side into turn 1 here at the Japanese Grand Prix.
Yeah, let's look. I actually kind of want to see it on board with Luca D'Amelio. We've got Craig Baxter going around the outside. I think D'Amelio's the one that's drifted wide there.
It's so
tight. It is so tight, because I think Craig Baxter was just about on the limit of where he could go on the curb, and then at least from my view, D'Amelio was the one that maybe drifted wide there. Of course, it's all very much open to interpretation. I think if anything's going to come of that, it will come down as probably a racing instance. They're both basically asking for it.
Siebel's in. Siebel is in. This releases Petter Burlak, and Siebel was slowing down, so his tyres had obviously got to that point. 22 laps, I would assume this is another set of the hard tyres.
Yeah.
Yes, that is what he's done. So definitely a 2-stop. And remember, he was the one who hit first. So definitely a 2-stop strategy for these guys today. He was obviously just trying to get a bit of an undercut, which sort of worked. And now is he going to get out ahead of Danny Van Der Neet? That could be crucial for him. And yes, he does. And he's got a bit of a gap to the car ahead as well to push into. So this could look good. Because now what does Burlak do? He stayed out quite a bit longer than Siebel in the first stint. But if he wants to get that third place, he needs to get past Siebel. That undercut is now gone. So what is he going to do? Or is he going to try maybe a set of mediums at the end?
I'd say this could be perfect for Alex Siebel, because he's got gap to the car ahead. So that's tick. I don't think he's going to be catching Baxter or Zveers anytime soon, because they're both on the soft tyres. I know Baxter's obviously had that spin, but he's still a few seconds ahead. I think he should still be able to at least marginalise the gap. And then when it comes to it, who's out? Thomas Vack?
Vack as well, DNF. So we had 2 DNFs in the last couple of laps. I have to try and see what happened to him. But what is happening with Burlak? And Mocek was out of 1 second at the second sector split. Obviously, they might close up just a tiny bit as they come to the detection zone. But Hoyer comes into the pit lane. But is Mocek going to have the DRS? No, he's not, because he's coming into the pit lane as well. So once again, the Burst Boys are pitting first.
Yes, and Patel is then promoted up into the podium spot of third as well. Janis Brakschok and Robin Panzar into the pit lane, with Patel being third. If I'm Petter Berliak, I'm not wanting Mohamed Patel to be on my 6, because he's going to go for a fairly bold move. Mocek then out of the pit lane, obviously taking those hard tyres. We'll see where he comes out. There goes Van Der Neet. Siebel already gone through. Janis Brakschok obviously is coming behind him, so Janis Brakschok's going to come out in his own little bit of clean air. For Mocek, though, literally just in behind Van Der Neet. That wasn't perfect for him, and if you base it on that, if Petter Berliak comes through now, he's going to be ahead of Van Der Neet.
That would be very crucial for his battle with David Mocek. If he could get ahead of Danny Van Der Neet, as you said, that is, I think, what Berliak really needs to focus on now. Because if he gets stuck behind Danny, that is going to be, not to say game over, but very difficult to get that third place. Yeah. Which is what he really needs, as the top 2, as you mentioned, are pretty gone up the road.
I'd be telling Berliak to come in this lap. I'd be like, look. I know tyres, etc., but don't let Siebel run too far away. Tick. Don't do that. And also come out ahead of Van Der Neet and, of course, Mocek as well. If he pits now, the chance for the podium is still fairly high. He's just made a mistake at the chicane, though. Jerne Simoncic has just gone into the pit lane, and Petter Berliak's just overcooked the chicane quite a bit there.
as Dennis Jordan comes in as well. I assume Burlak was going to come straight in because Patel's actually caught up a little bit, or it's going to be crucial. Or as Mocek gets past Danny Van Den Eet though. Mocek gets past Danny Van Den Eet as Sadly comes down pit road as well. So let's see how this one all works out. The pit stops. Oh, Dennis Jordan on the medium tyres. Dennis Jordan has gone onto the medium compound tyres. Where is he going to come out? Well behind. He's lost quite a bit of time there as he's behind Brakshock as well. But that could be a sign that Simoncic is going for the mediums. What did he do? No, he went for the hards. Interesting. Okay,
so he's definitely going to go mediums here. He can't risk. He's just got go for it. Just go for the mediums. What else are you going to do in this scenario?
As Mocek is now filling that gap where Van Den Eet was, so this is going to get a little bit tight, I would say. I think with him staying out so long, that's got to be what he's trying to do. He's got to be going for those mediums at the end. We have seen it in a couple of other races this season. The hards are a lot more consistent, I guess, but the mediums are definitely quicker. And then you could just try and get the position and then work out tyre later on. But we know that Burlak and also Patel are very smart. Both world champions in their own right. Obviously, Burlak, as we said, 2015, but Patel, remember, back in 2017 was the world champion. So what are they going to do? End of lap 34?
No, still not. No. Ooh, interesting.
Oh, Phil Krause down the inside. So where is Phil Krause now? He's up into fifth place. Obviously, pit stops pending, but he's got past his teammate or assist team, I should say, of Luke Maguire, his pro championship rival, and he's on that soft tyre, interestingly, where Luke is on the mediums.
Van Den Eet into the pit lane on the hard compound. He'll probably go onto the mediums and go to the end. Very, very curious with Burlak and Patel here. Maybe trying something out here. Maybe a later pit stop and onto the softs. I don't think it's worth the risk, but
they'd have to stay out too long. I think they lose too much time. They've already lost about a second to David Mocek.
Well, how long did Burlak do at the start of the race? Did 14 laps. It was 13 laps. It was in that vein. I mean, it's something they could do. I wouldn't be doing it. I don't understand why you would try it. But
they'd have to stay out 4 more laps now, and they'd probably lose a second a lap for the next 4 laps, as we now see Michi Hoyer on Luke Maguire, that is, for 6th place. Obviously, Luke owes us a pit stop, but Hoyer loses a bit more time to Simoncic every time he gets stuck in this bit of traffic.
What's Mocek doing at the moment? His previous lap was a 28.4. Burliak's was a 29.1.
Hoyer down inside 130R, has to back out of that one. Burlak stays out again, and Patel, they definitely go for the mediums, surely.
Yeah, but if Alex Siebel's already taken... Oh, sorry, who's already taken the mediums who came in for a pit stop? It was Dennis Jordan who's already done it. Yeah. Whoa, straight into the pit lane there. Goes Luke Maguire. I'm really not sure about the strategy for Edge Esports and Peter Burlak.
It will only work if they get out ahead of Mocek.
Okay.
If they don't get behind Mocek, then they've got Brakshock and Jordan to worry about. And if they get stuck with those two, it's game over. Done. They have to get either next to or ahead of Mocek.
You really have to think about what can be gained through strategy. Of course, their main fight at the moment is to get onto the podium, is to get ahead of Mocek and Siebel for that podium spot, what we assume is going to be the podium spots come the end of the race. Now, the thing is, with them staying out, if they'd have pitted at that time when we were saying, they would have come out on the hard sides, or maybe even the mediums, and battled with, and maybe got by Alex Siebel, they should have definitely been ahead of David Mocek. Right now, Peter Burlak's going to drop in behind Mocek. So, as much as I am not convinced by the strategy, it is so long to go in the race to try anything like a one-stop cam, don't you think? And a two-stop from here, why are you leaving it so late?
Difficult.
Here we go then.
Still
nothing. And also, if they are going to the end from here, which is in, let's be honest, quite a long time, Jonas Simoncic isn't far behind. You can see him in the background there. He is very, very close.
However, the gaps behind Simoncic are quite big to Hoyer, Siebel, etc. So even if they let Simoncic get the race win, there still could be second and third for Burlak and Patel.
But this is what I mean, though, is that if they'd have just pitted earlier, they probably would have got third anyway.
Difficult one. Or what they're going to do is they're going to pit so late, they're going to go onto the soft tyres, and they're just going to absolutely YOLO it in the last stint, because they will be a lot quicker on a set of soft tyres for 14-15 laps. They will be a lot quicker than a set of the hard tyres. Obviously they'll have to make 2, maybe 3 overtakes. However, they will have a lot more grip coming out of the crucial corners.
Big over the curb I saw from Yanis Brakshok through the first of the 2 Degners. We see on board with Mohammed Patel. Now look backwards towards Alex Siebel, who's on the back of Craig Baxter and has a decent margin to David Moreau-Check behind. It's, to be honest, so far, another great drive from Alex Siebel, really outdoing his teammate, to be honest, Dennis Jordan, who's a little bit further ahead of him in the Drivers' Championship. Dennis Jordan, having taken victory last time out in the Netherlands, I believe that put him up in 3rd place in the championship. A fair way off, mind the top 2. Alex Siebel, I think he's going to be eyeing up a move into T1 here.
As we also have Hoyer just ahead of him.
Oh, Berliak's in. There we go. Pet is in, and this will be medium, surely. Unless he's going to...
I'd say he's too early for softs.
Too early for softs, I agree.
Let's have a look.
Mediums,
mediums,
there we go. 13, I think it was.
Where is all these cars?
For the softs.
As Brakshok now gets past Moreau-Check. Brakshok's got past Moreau-Check, and Jordan is not too far behind. But
look at Berliak.
He's behind 4 cars. He's lost behind 4 positions.
He's behind Moreau-Check, who he did overtake. He's behind Dennis Jordan. He's behind Robin Panzer. I am very sorry to Edge Esports fans out there. I do personally, at least at this point, with 15 laps to go, that's the wrong strategy to me.
Yes. 4 overtakes.
Yeah, I don't... He's going to be quick. I reckon he can get up to getting ahead of Moreau-Check, and if he does, the championship's still alive. At least as far as we assume it will be when it comes to pit stops and stuff, which would be great for him. However, when he could have got a podium, I'm not quite sure he can get to Siebel.
Yeah. Difficult one. Very, very difficult. I tell you someone who is not doing too badly is also Jordi Zwijs. He's only 4.5 seconds behind Patel, and obviously both of them still need to make another pit stop. So that is someone to look out for. But yeah, back to Berliak. He's now having a look at, or having a think at least anyway, at Robin Panzer.
He'll do Panzer into 1. Oh, he'll do Panzer into the chicane. He's left it nose slightly, very uncommitted down to the Casio triangle. Phil Kraus comes into the pit lane, as does Craig Baxter. I don't think Berliak wanted that move because he's trying to line this one up. So didn't really commit to it. Gets by Robin Panzer. Should be a pretty easy DRS pass. Easy as you like, through down on the inside, and Robin Panzer then drops down to what is 10th position now, and Peter Berliak gets the first of those overtakes done and up into 9th place. This really has to be a champion's drive from the 2015 world champion.
He's also 6 seconds behind Siebel as well, so not only does he have to make the overtakes, but he's got some time to make up. He's got about 3 seconds or 2.5 seconds to Dennis Jordan before he even makes the overtake, and you can obviously tell that Jordan, Moreau-Check and Brakshok aren't going to give him the places, and that's before he even gets to Siebel. Difficult one this, very difficult one this, as Patel has stayed out, so Patel's got to be going to the soft tyres just to probably try it. 15 laps to go, I'd say is too much for a 1 stop.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
He must be going to the softs, especially the softs will be very quick. It's just the amount of cars that are there to be overtaken is quite extreme.
He's going to come out in 11th place, or what will be 10th place once Jordi pits as well, because he'll come out behind Tom Satherley, I believe, from where he currently is. Jordi Zwijs, actually, he's going to go onto the soft tyres again as well, isn't he? If he's going this late, it's going to be a hard soft for Jordi, and that could actually work out to some pretty helpful points. Oh, nearly over T1 though. He did. That was fairly tight. He's keeping in touch with the world champion himself, Jane Simoncic. Obviously, I don't think Simoncic is pushing particularly hard at the moment. If Berliak though can get to Siebel, you know, realistically, it's only 2.5 seconds to Michi Hoyer, and that could be a potential runner-up position here at the Japanese Grand Prix, which would be very, very helpful for him when it comes to his championship challenge. That said, if he can get to Michi Hoyer, I'll buy a hat and eat it. So,
well,
not convinced.
Last lap, Berliak, purple. Fastest of anyone. Almost a second quicker than Alex Siebel on the last lap. So he's going to reel them in. He's definitely going to reel them in. But does he have enough time? Does he have enough laps to get past these guys as well, even if he can overtake them? That is what we are here to find out in the closing stages of the 9th race of the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, brought to you by SimLab 3D Wrap and IMB Racewear.
So I'm assuming that Yildiz Viers and Mohammed Patel are potentially going to come into the pit lane either this time or next time, because once we cross the line, it'll be 13 laps to go to the checkered flag. And that's where we kind of expect the soft tyres to run. Patel straight into the pit lane. Jone Simoncic then is going to come across the line to retake the lead here of the Japanese Grand Prix. And Yildiz Viers, God, I'm good at this. My goodness. Yildiz Viers comes into the pit lane as well. And he'll take another set of softs to the checkered flag.
God, this is such an interesting strategical race, as we're now seeing Dennis Jordan close up to
Mocek.
David Mocek. Very, very close, in fact, into turn number 1 and 2. So I think Dennis is going to be looking to make that overtake. I think these guys have a bit of a fight early on in the race as well. If I'm not mistaken, Yildiz come out ahead of Luca Maguire. So that's 11th place.
Yeah.
And he's got, to be fair, it is a few seconds, but on those soft compound tyres, he might be able to get into the points and catch up to Tom Southerly.
Man, Patel is going to be coming here. He's on the back of Robin Panzar going through the Degners. He is not that far behind from Berniak. And if you're saying this about pace and stuff, well, he might get right up there. We've got a thrilling end then to who is going to get onto the podium. At the moment, the fight is between Alex Siebel and Janis Brakschok. We see on board with Mohammed Patel, we've got Robin Panzar directly ahead. He is going to be wasting no time. Is the 2017 world champion at Spoon Curve. Straight down the inside goes Mohammed Patel. Wow, what a move. And he is gone by the second apex. He has absolutely run away. I don't think Robin Panzar is going to have much to threat when it comes down towards turn 1, because as much as you're close towards Casio Triangle and will get DRS, the drive that Mohammed Patel is going to get off the Casio Triangle is going to be unrivaled when it comes to Panzar's ability off there on these tyres.
I really thought that was going to be a Verstappen Vettel into that corner. However, let's look a bit further up, because Dennis Jordan, I think, is going to be getting past Mocek, or at least he's going to be side by side into turn number 1 on the outside, as we've seen. It's notorious for incidents, but he gets it round the outside. So much more grip and confidence, which means Petter Berg is the next person for Mocek. And this has been a battle literally since turn 2, where Mocek and Berlak went side by side. And once again, on lap 42, they're going at it again. I think Berlak, he's got enough time. He's caught up to him, he's got enough time, but he needs to make these moves stick as soon as possible. Yeah. And you are correct, that Patel is probably going to be on them at the end of this lap.
I will say, Janis Brakschok, hats off to you, mate. What a drive. Up in 4th place through a little bit of strategy and some great racing. He is up into 4th at the moment, and things are looking pretty rosy for him. He has completed, as far as I'm aware, he's completed whatever his pit stop requirements is. It should be,
Yes.
I think he's done 2 stops, and I believe he can get to the checkered flag from this point. Might take a little bit of worn tyres towards the end of it. But nevertheless, things are looking pretty rosy for Janis Brakschok. We'll see. We'll come back to that one in 11 laps' time, because you never really know what's going to happen. Dennis Jordan then leading David Mocek, Petter Berliak and Mohammed Patel, who's really not very far behind. Petter Berliak was eyeing up the inside of the Casio Triangle on the burst driver.
This is going to be so difficult, though, because Mocek's got DRS, and this has been Berlak's issue the whole day. He's always been stuck behind 2 cars ahead of him. This is going to be so difficult. He's going to have to hope that Mocek takes out Dennis or something like that, because this is going to be very difficult. He definitely has the grip, but it's going to be very difficult. He does have the ability to do it, definitely. Although Patel is catching up to him behind as well. So it's not all over. And I'll tell you what about Janis Brakschok. I think he might be able to get a podium here. He's caught up to Siebel as well. So plenty of fights to go as we come towards the final 10 laps of this race. And all these different strategies and maybe tactics as well. They're all coming to a single point as we get to the end of this race.
The thing is with Berliak, of course, if everything finishes as it is in 11 laps time, Jone Simoncic will be your world champion. A long way to go though. Berliak, realistically, he needs to get by Siebel if he still wants to win this championship. If he still wants to even be in contention, because I think Patel's getting in there. I think Patel is going to be past Berliak pretty soon. Whether Berliak's going to get past Mocek and what's going to happen past that, not really too sure. Your current standings then show that Jone Simoncic is 30 points at the head of the field, and that would crown him the champion here and today. Berliak's not quite close enough into the chicane to try and fire something down the inside of Marocek, and Marocek, who's just taken a little bit too much curb, as did Dennis Jordan, and that's just going to give Marocek the slipstream, going to give Marocek the DRS, and this is absolutely what Petter Berliak did not want.
Yeah, it all good. To be honest, sometimes one corner, one move is part of a race, and I think that turn 3 incident, very first lap, when he tried to go around the outside of Marocek and Marocek just squeezed him a little bit, that set the scene for this whole race for Petter Berliak, and then obviously potentially not the best strategy for Berliak either. Considering how Patel has caught up to him, maybe Berliak could have stayed out, gone on the softs as well. Who knows? We'll find out what the best strategy is. But Patel is there as well to obviously get involved. So this is going to be a very interesting end to the race. And while Marocek is in the slipstream of Jordan, I think Berliak is going to struggle a lot to get past.
Agree. I think, like we said earlier, I think this is very much the wrong strategy that Petter Berliak's currently on. He's just got a mountain to climb. It's constant mountains. He's got a mountain to climb to get by Marocek, then get by Dennis Jordan, and then close up somehow to Janis Brakshock, whilst also simultaneously keeping this man, Mohamed Patel, behind him over the next 10 laps of the Japanese Grand Prix. Patel is very much there.
Petter is coming into the final straight. He's going to have to dive it.
He's got to. He's got nothing else he can do. He does dive the inside. There's contact between the two. There was always going to be contact between the two of them.
Yeah, Marocek didn't really care about that one. He just went for the apex as normal.
Why would he?
Petter's coming. He's got to go for this. This is his moment. He's got to do this around the outside. It's going to be big and brave, but he's got to make this move around the outside. Yes, there.
He's gone. He's gone. He's lost a wheel. That is it. Championship done. Petter Berliak threw everything he possibly could at this Japanese Grand Prix, and that is it. A sad way for the 2015 World Champion to end his hopes. Petter Berliak out of the Grand Prix. Let's have a look and see what happens. So he goes to the outside of David Marocek on the run down the hill towards turn 1. I think he just clips a little bit of curb, has a bit of oversteer.
Wheel disconnect. Look at the wheel fully to the left.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure that was a wheel disconnect, because that's a very odd time for it to go like that, because he tried catching the slide. Watch his wheel. Let's go, because I think he can't.
Oh! Yeah, something definitely happened there, either with his game or his wheel. I do not believe that was a driver error.
No, you're right. It does literally flick completely.
What a championship. Always now we've got Patel. Patel's getting past Marocek for 6th place. And we also have Brakshock still getting close to Siebel. So some of these positions aren't over. But as you said, what a sad way that is going to end. That was definitely some sort of technical issue, whether it was hardware or software. We will find out, I'm sure. But that is such a shame.
I take it back. No, like looking at it, as soon as he hits the apex, literally his hands go 180 degrees to the left and it just goes straight off. That looks to me, like you say, like a wheel disconnect. Terrible shame. We do have a few battles though to go. We've got to see where Patel can get to. He's got by Marocek, he's got Dennis Jordan ahead, and we've also got that battle for the podium. You keep seeing it poking through in your foreground. Janis Brakshock's not able to get onto the podium yet. He's got Alex Siebel ahead, who's already got a couple of podiums to his name in 2020. And Janis Brakshock, who has been inside the points, is the only driver to do so who's been in the points in every Grand Prix this season. Janis Brakshock is desperate to get his first podium of the season. P4 would be still his highest place thus far. It's 5th is currently his highest place prior to this Grand Prix, and if he could take 4th, I'm sure he'll be okay with that. But he'll be very disappointed with not getting a podium. He's had a few podiums in his run in the World Championship, as far as I remember, and of course that pole position back in Italy last year. I think Patel might have something to say about it though.
I'm just reflecting on what happened with Berliak. I think I jinxed him earlier, because what did I say? I said this is sim racing and we're racing with hardware, software, all sorts. And that is obviously what can happen. But back to the action, Patel is going to, I think, get Dennis Jordan. Dennis has nothing to defend in the way of DRS. He's only got the boost, but Patel, is he going to dive it down the inside of Dennis? Oh, maybe not quite. Oh, look at that. In fact, might have actually touched him just a tiny bit into the chicane. What can he do now coming out onto the start? Finish straight. I think it's going to be a fairly easy overtake.
Pretty easy. Yeah, Dennis Jordan's going to get demoted here down to 6th place as Mohammed Patel moves himself up into the top 5 and sets his sights on a potential 3rd podium on his return to the World Championship. I will say there's another driver coming who's currently in 8th place. It's been a great drive from it. I think he qualified in 11th or 12th position, did Jordi Sveers. Currently in 8th at the moment on the soft tyres, closing in on David Marocek, and this will be big when it comes to Evolution and their team's title hopes, because if Jordi Sveers can get by Marocek, it's just a few more points that's taken off of Burst Simplexity on their run for a championship. Of course, it's been a good run for Burst Riatoro, but realistically, with Robin Panzar's performances, not to be disrespectful to him, he's in the points for the 2nd time this season. I just think it's a bit of an uphill struggle for them to win the team's championship, and I think they may well be eliminated after today's running.
Absolutely, and that is what that's just what you got to keep on pushing for. Things happen. You sometimes get gifted positions. You sometimes make positions yourself from strategy and whatnot. I mean, even Patel, he's going to be coming for this podium. I'll tell you. I mean, there's plenty of laps left to do
Look
this.
At him go. Look at him go. That gap was a big gap, Cam, and now it is nearly nothing already.
Oh, yes. I mean, he's going to be getting there definitely in another couple of laps. Bragshock has been there or thereabouts with Siebel for a couple of laps now, so I do wonder how that is sort of still the case and how he hasn't been able to get past yet. But certainly, this is all coming to a point, as I mentioned earlier, because all these different strategies, people pitted on all sorts of different laps in this Grand Prix. And it is all coming together. I think Jordi might be on the back of Marocek on this lap as well. And if Jordi can get Marocek, he can then definitely get Dennis, because he's not too far up the road.
And then maybe in the latter points of the race, we'll see. Oh, you've jinxed him! I'll blame you on that one. I was about to talk him up there big style. Credit to that, because I remember Bono Huis in 2014, I think it was, going off there absolutely monstrously. It might have been 15 actually when Bernat won one time. No, I'm not sure. Either way, it was a huge crash. I am speechless. I am absolutely speechless. I'm pretty sure his underwear might be as well after that, because that was nearly a huge crash for Jordi. But yeah, if he gets by Marocek, if he gets by Jordan, maybe Bragshock and Siebel in the final couple of laps, maybe one of them is just going to be dropping off a little bit too much. We'll have to wait and see. Siebel's under heavy pressure from Bragshock, who are now both under pressure from Mohammed Patel.
Same situation though, double DRS. It's going to have to be a full send from Patel, whilst there are still 2 cars ahead of him. So that is something that he needs to consider. But he is certainly there. And he's got plenty of laps. He's got 5 laps to do this. So he has got plenty of time. I'm sure his tyres, considering how late he pit, I'm sure his tyres are going to be fine to the end of this race. So he's going to be able to push all the way. And once we get to the end of this lap, we're going to see what he's going to be able to do. But has he used up too much boost? Because as we mentioned before the race, you can blow your engine if you use too much of it. So it's not just, a magic button that you press all the time. There is a limited time that you can use that, and I wonder how much he's used already. But look how close he is. He might even do this into spoon like he did on Robin Panzar.
Yeah, I was
look at the
wondering
exit he's got here, but he's going to have to go around the outside. It's going to be very late. Bragshock's seen it though. He's defending a little bit, although Patel's going to send it down.
Oh!
Look how much more grip he's got. Wow, he had so much more grip.
That was a huge send from Mohammed Patel. Absolute monster send into spoon. Janis Bragshock will be sat there thinking, what, who, huh, how, what, why did that happen? But either way, Patel and up into 4th, and it should be, to be honest, from this point, a fairly easy move on Siebel. Can he get to Michi Hoyer? Can he get the runner-up spot? He's got through the Casio triangle with fair ease and some decent grip. Now got the DRS open, and Siebel is going to be demoted off the podium and down to 4th place as Mohammed Patel fires his way through pretty quickly. Janis Bragshock's nowhere near enough to fire his way through. So up to the podium then goes Mohammed Patel. Pretty impressive stuff. Let's have a look at that move. We're on board with Mohammed Patel. Cam, I would not have risked this. Credit to the world champion of a few years back.
Yeah, he just went full send on the brakes. Bragshock obviously on 2-step harder tyres and older tyres as well, relatively speaking. So yeah, that is quite a move by Patel. And maybe We were slating it a little bit, but maybe this was the strategy to go for the softs. Unfortunately, this year, we haven't seen too many people do this. A lot of people do the soft, hard strategy because it is the safe option. But we can see on the races where people use either the mediums or the softs in the final stint, it generally comes off pretty good. And that just shows you where Burlak could have been had he not had that issue, which is a bit of a shame. But maybe that is the way it goes. And obviously, Patel is on the softs, not the mediums. However, you are correct. Second place Michi Hoyer is not safe.
No, he's certainly not. And Patel is coming very, very quickly. 3 laps to go in the Japanese Grand Prix. And we'll see if he can fire any more attempts and gain himself yet another position. Jone Simoncic has gone. I don't think the victory is going to be up for grabs. Jordi Zveers, though, looking to move his way up the order. He's on the back of David Marocek, who's sat on the back. Oh, look at that. Was that Alex Siebel coming back, or holding off, rather, Janis Brakshock? Wow, that was tight. So Brakshock has closed up quite well over that lap, and Dennis Jordan's a fair way back, and I don't think it's closing. He's under pressure from David Marocek, who's under pressure himself from Zveers. I don't know what the right strategy was for today. So
Phil
maybe it was Patel.
Phil Kraus has DNF'd.
3 laps to go as well. That's a shame.
He was in such a decent position. I mean, considering obviously just being a reserve jumping in, I do wonder if this was a big crash or was it some sort of disconnection as well.
Ooh. Oh, I wonder if his engine went pop.
Possibly. That is a bit of a weird one. Nothing.
It still runs apparently.
Nothing really happened. That is a bit of a weird one for him. But either way, he is out of the race, and that means that he will obviously be playing no further part. Well, look at Jordi Zveers now on the back of Marocek. Jordi might be able to get in 6th place here if he's playing this well enough. We've got 3 more laps after this one. So let's see what he can do coming into 130R. Full send.
Have to dive it. Yeah, he's
on
going to
the
have
inside.
to.
In fact, he's going to get DRS as well. Oh, Marocek did really well on the brakes there. I tell you what, Marocek is good on the brakes. But Jordi is going to get the slipstream.
Here he goes.
He's got a DRS and the boost. And look at that. He's going to make that easily.
He might get Dennis. Oh, that's a bit too tight. He'd have to really commit on the brakes. I thought he was closing in just enough. Obviously, the pace differential didn't really work out there for Jordi, but he's got by David Marocek and up into 7th. And now with Dennis Jordan ahead, could be a great drive from the Dutchman, who's had some decent ones throughout the season. Has scored points on a few occasions back in San Marino, and of course. When he got a 5th place at the French Grand Prix. Bit of a slide there from Dennis Jordan. We look back from Michi Hoyer to see Mohamed Patel closing. Jordi is right on the back of Dennis Jordan and nearly hit him as well through the Degners.
But I thought he was going to punt him and make Dennis do what Jordi did a few laps ago through the gravel. But Jordi needs to play this correctly. He's got the speed and he's got the tyre grip. He just needs to not make any mistakes towards the end of this lap, and then he'll get a nice run out of the spoon onto 130R, down to 130 I should say, and then out of the final chicane down to turn 1. If he just gets these corners good, which I think he is just about done, he's going to get the slipstream, and this could be 6th place for the Singularity Racing team.
Marocek might be on full boost and might try something on the way back through, but I don't think it's really going to work. Of course, this is the penultimate lap, so the penultimate time into the Casio Triangle, and there'll only be like 1 or 2 more attempts realistically for Jordi if he doesn't get this done now. He'll be very, very aware of that, though, will Jordi Zveers. He's lit it up out there. He'll be high on the boost, trying to get by. He's got the slipstream, he's got the DRS, and he's got the engine to do so. He's closing on Dennis Jordan, and this could be a fantastic drive on the soft tyres to the outside of T1. It's going to be a very brave commitment, though. Oh, Dennis Jordan's nearly overcooked the corner. They're still side by side on the apex of the second part of the corner. My goodness me, move of the race. Jordi Zveers round the outside. Well held from Dennis Jordan, not to run in too far out wide. Up into 6th place, though, for Singularity. What a stunning effort for Jordi, who qualified down in 12th position, now goes +6 up to 6th place. What an effort. Mohamed Patel is also, this is going to come down to the chicane. This is the final lap of the Grand Prix, the final lap of the penultimate race of the season. Michi Hoyer, who's currently in 2nd position, 6.4 seconds off of Jone Simoncic, and Mohamed Patel, who's had to really put in the work for HME Red, as he's fired his way up onto the podium after passing Brakshock, after passing Siebel, and the other half of the field as well. He qualified down in 8th place and is in podium contention. He's seen him do some moves into the Casio triangle before, but Michi Hoyer won't know that. Hoyer's going to defend the inside. Oh, but is it enough? There's nearly contact between the two. As Mohamed Patel nearly fight it down the inside. Across the line, though, Jerne Simoncic, your 2020 world champion, comes across the line to win the Japanese Grand Prix. Michi Hoyer second, Mohamed Patel in third. Sterling effort from him. Alex Siebel and Yanis Brakshok round out the top 5. Jordi Sveers, what a drive, what a move. P6. Dennis Jordan did what he could, only to 7th place, but the team's championship very much alive between them and Burst Simplexity Esports. David Morocek takes 8th. Robin Panzar into the points for only the 2nd time in 2020. And Tom Satherley rounds out the top 10. Wow, Cam. Wow.
What an interesting race that was. It had everything. It had the strategy, had the overtakes, had the drama, had the disconnections, not just from one driver. So wow, what a race that was in the end. But after all of that, it was Simoncic who came out on top and will be your double back-to-back FSR World Champion. He had to wait a long time. He came second so many years in a row, and now he's come first twice in a row. But that is obviously not all the action, because there is still the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2 weeks' time to finalise the positions. But for him, that is going to be all his effort done for the season. He can just go and have fun in Brazil to see what he can do for the final race. But again, you cannot discount all the good performances in this race. Patel getting the podium from way down and looking like a strategy wasn't going to work. Brakshok missed consistent again, getting a good result. Jordi in 6th place. And you cannot even really discount Panzar getting in the points again, who struggled quite a bit this season. And then Tom Sadley getting the final point as well. But hopefully we're going to be able to get a word with some of these drivers, because that was quite something.
Yeah, impressive stuff for Jerne Simoncic. Like we said, back-to-back world champions, 19 and 20. Of course, important to note as well, that's the first time that a driver's gone back-to-back in the FSR World Championship since all the way back in 2013 and 14 with the master, the 5-time, Mr. 5-time Bonahuis. Of course, from then, we've had different world champions every year, and all culminating in Jerne Simoncic winning it last year. And like you said, been second so many times, wins the World Championship in 19, and from that point on, it really ignited the charge of Jerne Simoncic, the Slovenian, to take another World Championship, and it certainly does so. I think we're going to get some nice cheeky donuts from the World Champ. Well, it's not gone so well so far. Come on, Jerne, that's it. Good boy, step it up. My goodness me.
I'm amazed he's got enough fuel actually to do the whole in lap.
Do you think he was saving just to do this?
Yeah, and do some donuts. So actually the fuel wasn't too bad here today, but he obviously took enough to make sure he can do this. And yeah, I mean, congrats to him really. You can't really say much more. Couple of races this year, he was just unstoppable, namely Azure and Portugal. For instance, he was, just absolutely leading the way. But let's go and get a word with him, your double world champion. So we'll just jump over and get him in the booth. So Jerne Simoncic, you are a double FSR World Championship champion, and not only that, but back-to-back as well, 2019 and 2020. How does that feel?
Well, it would have been even more exhilarating, or if that's a word even, if Peter was still in the race and fighting for P4, which was needed for him. But yeah, it's awesome. I really felt the pressure of the disconnection, but I guess now with my disconnection in last race, and now with Peter's steering wheel disconnection, if I heard it correctly, we are 1-1 on unlucky retirements, and then 1-1 on race incidents with our fellow competitor in the red car. Well, yeah, nothing more to say. Really, really happy, and really fantastic job by the team. Really awesome preparation from everyone to be P1, P2, P3, P4 in qualifying. That made the race so much easier.
Yeah, obviously, it's not something you can plan for because qualifying is so close in the World Championship. But Is that what you were really pushing for this race, to get 1, 2, 3, and 4 in qualifying?
Yeah. I mean, the plan was for me to get pole position and then just push away, because everything else would end up in a random race, getting stuck behind a huge train. So that was the plan. We saw it. We had a good pace. We practiced a bit more, and yeah, it worked.
Yeah, well, certainly congratulations to you. But obviously, still one race left, and the Constructors' Championship for both burst teams is still there up for grabs as well. So good luck to you in Brazil. But yeah, enjoy your second championship.
Thank you so much.
And now, Michi Hoyer couldn't quite get close enough to Simčić for the race victory, but surely you must be really happy with that second place, because you pulled away so much from the guys behind you. Your pace was really good today.
Yeah, obviously, first of all, massive congrats to Yanni Simčić becoming a back-to-back champion this year. And then, yeah, the race was quite interesting. I was a little bit surprised that Yanni and me could both pull a gap towards P3 and onwards. And yeah, then for the second pit stop, I think the call was just about right. I could have had the chance to stick with Yanni, but then I tried to go around the outside into turn 1 on some soft runners, and that probably wasn't a good idea. Shaving off like over 3 seconds overall, making it interesting in the end. If I haven't done that, Moo never had the chance to really come close at me. But yeah, it is what it is, and therefore the pace was good. Race pace was good. I was a little bit more concerned prior to the race that are going to be drop off a little bit in pace, but then somehow nailed Q, and the race got very well. Nothing to mourn on that.
And obviously, you getting a second place is also good for the constructors. So is that what you're really going to be pushing for in Brazil? Try and get a 1-2 with you and David?
Yeah, I think that needs to be the main target. I'm not sure what the sister team Rio Toro Esports still for chances with today's finish. I think they got a little closer to us, but not necessarily in the better position than we are. And of course, beating off Evolution is, I think, top priority on the team level coming towards the final race. Since obviously Yanni got his drivers' championship sealed now, so that shuffles the options a little bit. Other than that, I think, personally, I want to keep that third place in the standings and see how we can manage with that.
Well, good luck to you in Brazil, and congratulations today. So yeah, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
And Mohammed Patel, we were a little bit skeptical of your strategy to stay out so long, but certainly the soft tires at the end there were really the best option for you.
Yeah, first of all, I have to mirror Michi's words and pretty much say congrats to Yone. Bursted really well with the setup, and Yone, as always, is like on a very few occasions you can touch him in qualifying. So I tried to do everything in Q and overdid it and ended up in 10th. So that made my race a lot of fun. And with regards to the strategy, I don't know. Like it's the standard story for us. We have good race pace, not so good in qualifying. So I was there saving my tires, waiting, and then I saw everyone pitting around lap 10, lap 9, 10, 11, and was like, okay, this will be interesting. And then was like, if I go as long as I possibly can, and then perhaps try softs at the end. I was just making it up, I never used softs. Like we all thought that they were shit. So I just decided that, okay, let's just go for it, see what happens. And then had a lot of fun with some fights. I have to apologize to Robin. I think I might have pushed him off in turn 1. And then I had a lot of fun with everyone else until I caught Michi, and he did his usual stuff of moving under braking, but that's nothing to be surprised of. But yeah.
Well, it's certainly a good race for you, and obviously you coming in at the end of the championship, you didn't really have much to fight for in terms of the big points, but are you still going to be trying to get that win? Obviously you've had a few podiums now. Is Brazil, is the win now the only target for you?
Honestly, I remember from every single year in FSR that I did, I was useless at Brazil. So I know in CNRS I always lost like a 10th to Petter. So I don't know. We have a good car. We have We have a good setup. It's just I just need to make sure that I do qualifying well, and then try to fight with Yone. Everyone has it's fun, like Nürburgring was a lot of fun. For example, to have Yone, Petter, and myself all within a second was a lot of fun. If Jeroen was still there and so some of the guys were still there, that would call for like some amazing race. So the idea is that we can fight for the win, and we can fight with Yone and Petter. Who knows? Like every single time at the end of FSR, we are like, do we do another year? Who's racing? Who's not racing? So I don't know if Petter's racing next year. I don't know if Yone is racing next year. So it would be nice to race with them on track, because we've been driving together for so many years, and we've always had nice fights. And all respectful fights between the three of us. So hopefully we can do it one more time. That's pretty much the only thing that I want from the last race,
That's some kind words there for your competitors. So that's a good place to wrap it up. So good race today, and hopefully, you can maybe get a bit of a better result in Brazil. So good luck then. But Lewis will bring you back in to just show you the driver standings, and it does look a little bit more extreme after this race, because obviously Petter getting 0 points here today, but it's getting very tight for that third place as well.
Yeah, Dennis Jordan dropping from third down to fifth place. Alex Siebel moves up only a point clear of his teammate for fourth place, and Michi Hoyer then up to third. Great stuff from him. Shame for Berliak. The championship is basically done then. So drivers-wise, anyway, Jene Simoncic has got the championship, but everywhere else on the grid, wide open. I mean, David Marocek can fire his way up into the top 5 who puts on a decent performance come into Lagos. Interesting from Patel saying that he's not really confident at Interlagos, but we'll see if he can fire his way up there. Teams wise, it is going to make things very, very close with Evolution and Burst Simplexity. That though wraps us up for the Japanese Grand Prix. Of course, we will see you in 2 weeks' time for the final round of the 2020 Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Thank you very much for joining us, and until then, goodbye.